They say you can tell everything about a man by the suit he wears. But in Houston, Texas, a powerful manager made a $250,000 mistake. He saw a man in a dusty, threadbare military jacket and saw trash. He didn't just insult him. He had him thrown out like a stray animal, laughing as the man hit the wet pavement. What that manager didn't know, what he couldn't have imagined, was that the man in the mud was the only person on earth who could take everything away from him. By sunrise, the beggar would return, not for an apology, but for an execution of justice that would leave the entire city silenced. Most people will disagree with what happens next. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you, and if you're new here or yet to join us, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. The rain started soft, then came down hard against the glass walls of the Sterling Motor Group. Inside, everything smelled like money, fresh leather, polished chrome, and the kind of silence that only expensive things can buy. The marble floor reflected overhead lights like a mirror. This wasn't just a car dealership. It was a temple. Elias pushed through the heavy glass doors, water dripping from the collar of his faded M65 field jacket. His boots left wet prints on the perfect floor. He was 53, gray creeping through his beard, hands rough from years of work most people couldn't stomach. The jacket had seen 2 tours overseas. The jeans were torn at the knee, but his eyes? Steady, calm, like a man who'd seen worse than a room full of luxury cars. He walked slowly past a cherry-red Porsche, then a silver Mercedes, his gaze sweeping across the showroom. But he wasn't just looking at the vehicles. He was reading the name tags clipped to the chests of the salespeople scattered around the floor. Monica at the front desk, Rodrigo by the espresso machine, and Silas, the manager, standing near the center like he owned the air itself. Silas spotted him immediately. His face twisted, not with confusion, with disgust. He didn't see a customer. He saw a problem that needed to be erased. "Hey," Silas's voice cut through the hum of the air conditioning. "Stay right there." Elias stopped. He didn't flinch. He just looked at the man walking toward him like he was about to swat a fly. "What do you think you're doing here?" Silas asked, stopping 3 feet away, arms crossed. Elias spoke quietly. "Good morning, sir. I'd like some information on that model." He pointed to a sleek black sedan near the window. Silas let out a laugh. "Sharp. Cold. You? In that car?" He looked Elias up and down like he was inspecting garbage. "What dumpster did you crawl out of?" "I'm asking politely," Elias said. His tone didn't rise. It didn't need to. Politely, Silas stepped closer, close enough that Elias could smell his cologne. Expensive, heavy, suffocating. "You don't belong here. This place is for real people. People with money, not vagrants." Elias's jaw tightened, but he didn't move. "I just want to see the car." Silas placed his hand flat on Elias's chest. Firm, dismissive. "You've stepped over the line, old man." The room went quiet. Monica glanced up from her desk, then quickly looked away. Rodrigo smirked into his coffee cup. No one said a word. Silas pulled his phone from his pocket. "Security," he said into the receiver, his eyes locked on Elias. "We've got a situation. Come dispose of this trash." The 2 security guards arrived fast. Big men in black uniforms, blank faces, hands ready. They didn't ask questions. They just moved toward Elias like he was cargo that needed moving. "There he is," Silas said, pointing. "Get him out. I don't care how." Elias raised his hands slowly, palms out. "I'm not causing trouble. I just wanted to look at a car." "You're causing trouble by breathing in here," Silas snapped. He turned to the guards. "What are you waiting for? Throw him out." One of the guards grabbed Elias's arm. The other took his shoulder. Elias didn't resist. He let them guide him toward the door, his boots scraping against the marble. But Silas wasn't done. He followed, voice rising. You know what your problem is? You think you deserve to be here. You think because you walk through those doors, you're somebody. But you're not. You're nothing. A nobody in a jacket that smells like failure. Monica giggled. Soft, but loud enough. Rodrigo joined in, shaking his head like he was watching a comedy show. Then, from the corner of the showroom, a man in a three-piece suit, one of Silas's regulars, looked up from his phone. He watched Elias being shoved toward the exit, and he laughed, not out of shock, out of agreement. That's when it hit. The rot wasn't just in Silas. It was in the whole room. Elias stopped at the door and turned. Rain hammered the pavement outside. He looked directly at Silas. I hope you remember this face when the sun rises. Silas stepped forward, close enough that his breath fogged the glass. I won't remember you by lunch. The guards shoved Elias outside. He stumbled into the rain, catching himself on the wet curb. The automatic doors hissed shut behind him, locking with a solid click. Inside, Silas wiped his hands on a cloth like he'd touched something dirty. He turned to his staff. That's how you protect the brand. You don't let trash walk all over your reputation. Monica nodded. Rodrigo raised his coffee in a mock toast. The man in the suit went back to his phone. No one asked if Elias was okay. No one cared. Outside, Elias stood in the rain, water soaking through his jacket, running down his face. He didn't wipe it away. He just stood there, staring at the glowing sign above the dealership, Sterling Motor Group. Then, he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his phone. Not a cheap one. A custom device, encrypted, sleek. He dialed a number. It rang once. It's worse than we thought, Elias said quietly. Prepare the board. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. sharp. He hung up, turned, and walked into the storm. Inside, Silas was already telling the story again, laughing, making it bigger, meaner. He had no idea. The clock was ticking. 12 hours later, the rain had stopped. The city was quiet. But inside a high-rise penthouse on the west side of Houston, the lights were still burning. Elias sat at a glass desk, his jacket gone, replaced by a dark button-down shirt. The room was clean, modern, filled with monitors and files. On the screen in front of him, footage played, grainy, but clear. A small camera hidden in the lapel of his jacket had captured everything. Every insult, every laugh, every second of his humiliation. He replayed the moment Silas placed his hand on his chest. Watched the smirk, heard the words again. You've stepped over the line, old man. Elias didn't react. He just saved the file and moved to the next screen. This one showed financial records, spreadsheets, transaction logs, names, dates, amounts that didn't add up. He'd been digging for weeks, but the whistleblower's tip had confirmed it. The Houston branch wasn't just rude. It was rotten. His phone buzzed. A message from the board of directors. We're ready. What's the move? Elias typed back. The Houston branch is terminal. Prepare the surgery for 9 o'clock. He leaned back in his chair and looked across the room. On the wall, framed in dark wood, was a black and white photo. A man in a work shirt, standing in front of a small garage. The sign above him read, Sterling Motors, EST 1982. His father, the founder, the man who built the company from nothing, who believed that respect wasn't something you bought, it was something you earned. Elias stood and walked to the photo. He touched the frame. They've forgotten why we started. His phone buzzed again. This time, it was a photo. 3 black SUVs lined up at a fueling station, engines idling, windows tinted dark. The text read, Convoy ready. Awaiting your signal. Elias looked at the image for a long moment. Then he typed one word. Go. He set the phone down and walked to the window. Below, the city lights stretched out like a battlefield. Somewhere out there, Silas was sleeping, dreaming, confident. Untouchable. He had no idea what was coming. Most people would have just walked away and cried. But Elias chose to fight for the dignity of everyone. If you think Silas deserves what's coming, hit like. If you'd stay silent, tell us why in the comments. The next morning, Silas arrived at the dealership at 8:30, coffee in hand, tie perfect, smile ready. The sun was bright. The lot was clean. Everything was exactly as it should be. He walked through the showroom, nodding at Monica, who was already at her desk. Rodrigo waved from the service counter. The same regulars were browsing the same high-end cars. It was a good day. By 9, Silas was in full form. A wealthy client, a woman in designer sunglasses, asked about the Porsche. Silas turned on the charm like flipping a switch. His voice was smooth, confident, warm. "This is a masterpiece," he said, running his hand along the hood. "Not just a car, a statement. And you, ma'am, deserve nothing less." She smiled. He smiled back. It was a dance they both knew. As he closed the conversation, he leaned toward Rodrigo and whispered, "Yesterday, I had to clean up some riffraff. A beggar tried to touch the merchandise. Can you believe it?" Rodrigo shook his head. "What did you do?" "What I always do," Silas said. "Protected the brand." They both laughed. Then, the doors opened. Not with the usual hum. With weight. Authority. 3 black SUVs pulled up to the curb outside. Sleek. Expensive. Intimidating. The engines cut off in perfect sync. The doors opened. Silas straightened his tie. "Now this," he said to Rodrigo, "is a real customer." He moved toward the entrance, ready to greet whoever was about to step out. Probably a CEO, maybe a foreign dignitary, definitely someone worth his time. The first figure stepped out. Tailored charcoal suit, polished shoes, a watch that could pay off a mortgage. The man moved with the kind of confidence that didn't need to announce itself. Silas walked faster, smile widening. "Welcome, sir. Welcome to Sterling. I'm Silas, the director. How can I?" Then he saw the boots. Worn. Familiar. The same boots that had left wet prints on his floor yesterday. His smile froze. The man stepped fully into the light. The beard was trimmed now. The face was clean. But the eyes, those steady, unshakable eyes, were the same. Monica gasped from her desk. "Is that him?" Silas felt the blood drain from his face. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Elias walked straight past him. Didn't look at him. Didn't acknowledge him. He moved to the center of the showroom, stopping in front of the black sedan he'd asked about yesterday. Then he turned, looked directly at Silas, and spoke. "I'm back for the torque specs, Silas." Silas's legs felt like they'd turned to water. His mind raced, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. The beggar, the vagrant, the man he'd thrown out like garbage was standing in the middle of his showroom, wearing a suit that cost more than Silas made in 3 months. I recognize you," Silas stammered, his voice cracking. "From yesterday." "Sir, that was a misunderstanding. We've had issues with theft, and I was just protecting the brand." Elias finished, his tone flat, emotionless. "I heard you say that this morning." Silas blinked. "How did he?" Elias reached into his jacket and pulled out a leather folder. He opened it slowly, deliberately, and removed a stack of documents. "Official. Stamped. Legal. My name," Elias said, his voice carrying to every corner of the room, "is Elias Sterling." The room went silent. Not the kind of silence where people are waiting for the next word. The kind where the air itself stops moving. Monica's hand went to her mouth. Rodrigo dropped his pen. "Sterling," Silas whispered. As in the name on the sign outside," Elias said. "My father founded this company in 1982, built it from a 1-car garage into what it is today. And for the past 6 months, I've been traveling to every branch we own, living simply, dressing down, seeing how our people treat the everyday customer, the veteran, the working man, the person who doesn't walk in wearing a suit. He took a step closer to Silas. Yesterday, I came here as a test, and you failed. Silas's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Mr. Sterling, please. I have a family. I've been here for 12 years. It was a mistake, a terrible lapse in judgment. Elias's expression didn't change. A lapse in judgment is forgetting someone's name. What you did was reveal your soul. You saw a jacket and decided the man inside it wasn't human. From the SUVs outside, four people stepped out. 2 men, 2 women, all in professional attire. They walked into the showroom and formed a half-circle behind Elias. Silas recognized them immediately. The board of directors. One of them, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes, nodded at Elias. We've reviewed the footage, Mr. Sterling, and the financial records. Financial records? Silas's voice cracked again. What are you talking about? Elias pulled out another document. While I was conducting my audit, I had my team dig deeper, and we found some interesting discrepancies. Overcharges on elderly clients. Phantom fees added to veteran purchases. Money that should have gone to the company, but somehow ended up in a private account. Your private account. Silas's face went pale. That's not, I didn't. We have the bank statements, the woman from the board said coldly. We have everything. Elias looked at Silas, then at the security guards who had thrown him out yesterday. They were standing near the wall now, eyes wide, unsure of what to do. Are you going to lay hands on me today? Elias asked them. Neither of them moved. Elias turned back to Silas. You're fired, not just from this branch, from the entire Sterling network. And I will personally ensure that every dealership in this region knows exactly why. Silas dropped to his knees. Literally. Please. I'll fix it. I'll pay it back. Elias pointed to the glass office in the back. Silas, your seat is occupied. By me. Be honest. Was Elias right to trap him like this? Or was it too cruel? Comment A for justified or B for too much. Elias walked to the front entrance and pressed a button on the wall. The automatic doors locked with a heavy click. The sound echoed through the showroom like a coffin closing. No one leaves, he said quietly. Not until we're finished here. Silas was still on his knees, trembling. Monica stood frozen at her desk. Rodrigo had backed into a corner, coffee cup shaking in his hand. The wealthy clients who'd been browsing earlier had already slipped out through the service bay, not wanting to be part of whatever was unfolding. Elias turned to one of the board members, a man in his 40s with a tablet in his hand. Marcus, bring up the mainframe. Marcus nodded and moved to the back office. Within seconds, the large monitor on the wall behind Monica's desk flickered to life. Rows of data appeared. Transaction histories, customer files, financial records stretching back 3 years. Silas's eyes went wide. He scrambled to his feet and lunged toward the office. Wait, you can't just. 2 security guards, different ones, brought by the board, stepped in front of him. He stopped, breathing hard. Inside the office, Marcus's fingers flew across the keyboard. He's trying to delete files remotely, Marcus called out. He's logged in from his phone. Elias didn't even look at Silas. Block him. Already done, Marcus said. And we've recovered everything he tried to erase last night. Silas's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, staring at the screen. A single message, access denied. His hand dropped to his side. On the monitor, a folder opened. Inside were dozens of invoices. But these weren't normal sales records. They were labeled differently. Each one had a small note in the description field, adjustment fee, processing charge, premium documentation cost. Elias stepped closer to the screen, reading. His jaw tightened. These are elderly clients, veterans, people on fixed incomes. Marcus scrolled down. He was adding fees that don't exist. A 72-year-old Navy vet bought a used truck last year. The sale price was $18,000, but Silas charged him $23,000. The extra $5,000 went into a side account. That's not true, Silas said, his voice rising. Those were legitimate charges. Insurance, registration, it's standard. It's fraud, Elias interrupted. His voice was cold, controlled. And it's not just one or two sales. It's dozens. Marcus clicked on another folder. This one was labeled Sterling Exit Strategy. Elias's eyes narrowed. Open it. The folder contained blueprints, business plans, loan applications, all for a new dealership. The name at the top of the documents, Hartman Premium Motors. You were going to use stolen money to open a competing dealership, Elias said. He turned to Silas. You weren't just skimming. You were planning to leave and take my clients with you. Silas opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Elias walked over to him, stopping just a foot away. You didn't just insult me, Silas. You robbed the men I served with. The weight of that sentence hung in the air. Silas's face crumpled. He looked at the floor, unable to meet Elias's eyes. Outside, the sound of approaching sirens began to grow louder. Elias turned away from Silas and walked toward the center of the showroom. His eyes landed on Monica, still standing behind her desk, pale and shaking. Then on Rodrigo, pressed against the wall like he wanted to disappear into it. You too, Elias said. Come here. Monica hesitated. Rodrigo didn't move. Now, they walked forward slowly, like students being called to the principal's office. When they reached the center, Elias gestured to the board members. One of them, the sharp-eyed woman, pulled out a small speaker and set it on the glass table. I want you to listen to something, Elias said. The woman pressed play. The audio was grainy, but clear. Silas's voice came through first. Get your hands off that steering wheel. Then Elias's voice, calm and steady. I'm just asking for a price, sir. Silas again. You smell like a grease fire and look like a vagrant. And then, laughter. Soft, nasal, unmistakable. Monica's giggle. Rodrigo's low chuckle. Monica's hand flew to her mouth. Rodrigo looked at the floor. Elias stopped the recording. You thought it was funny. I didn't mean. Monica stammered. I was just. You were just what? Elias asked. Following orders? Trying to fit in? Or maybe you just enjoyed watching someone get humiliated. Monica's eyes filled with tears. Please, Mr. Sterling. I need this job. I have rent. I have bills. I didn't know who you were. That's the problem, Elias said. You didn't need to know who I was. You should have done the right thing because it was the right thing. He turned to Rodrigo. And you? What's your excuse? Rodrigo shifted on his feet. I thought he was just some guy off the street. Silas said. Elias repeated. So you let him do your thinking for you. Rodrigo looked away. Elias walked to the woman from the board. She handed him a folder. He opened it and pulled out 2 sheets of paper. Monica, he said, you were hired 3 years ago as the customer relations coordinator. Part of your job description is to file and investigate customer grievances, complaints, reports of mistreatment. Monica nodded slowly. In the past 18 months, how many grievances have been filed at this location? I don't know. Marcus spoke from the back. According to the system, 23. 23, Elias repeated. And how many of those were forwarded to corporate? Monica's silence was answer enough. Elias pulled out his phone and scrolled. Here's an email from 7 months ago. A woman named Clara Daniels wrote to corporate. She said her husband, a Gulf War veteran, was treated rudely when he came in to ask about financing. She said Silas called him a charity case. That email never made it past her desk. Monica's tears spilled over. I'm sorry. I was told to filter out complaints that weren't serious. Who told you that? She looked at Silas. Elias picked up the trash can next to Monica's desk. He held it in front of her. "This is where you said I belonged, right?" Monica shook her head. "I never said that." "But you let it happen," Elias said. "You watched. You laughed. And then you made sure no one ever heard about it." He set the trash can down and handed her the termination letter. Then he turned to Rodrigo and handed him the second one. "You aren't fired for being mean," Elias said. "You're fired for being cowards. If you saw someone being treated like an animal, would you speak up? Or would you watch to keep your paycheck? Be honest. Comment speak or silent." Most people are too scared to tell the truth. The sirens were close now. Flashing red and blue lights reflected off the glass walls of the dealership. 2 police cruisers pulled up to the curb. 4 officers stepped out, hands on their belts, eyes scanning the scene. Silas saw them, and his survival instincts kicked in. He turned and bolted toward the service bay, shoes slapping against the marble floor. "Stop him," Elias said calmly. But Silas was already through the door, into the back hallway that led to the garage. He ran past the parts department, past the lifts, heading for the rear exit. Freedom was just 20 feet away. Then he saw him. A man in grease-stained coveralls stood in front of the exit door, arms crossed. He was older, maybe 60, with silver hair and hands scarred from decades of wrenches and engines. His name was Frank, the mechanic, the guy Silas had yelled at 100 times for being too slow, too old, too useless. "Move," Silas panted. "Get out of my way." Frank didn't move. Silas reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his wallet. He yanked out a stack of bills, hundreds, 50s, 20s, and shoved them toward Frank. "Here, take it. 5,000. Just let me leave." Frank looked at the money, then at Silas. Then he shook his head. "I'm good." "Are you insane?" Silas hissed. "That's more than you make in 2 months. Just step aside." Frank crossed his arms tighter. "I said I'm good." Behind Silas, footsteps echoed. He turned. Elias was standing in the hallway, flanked by 2 officers. Silas spun back to Frank, desperate. "Please, I'll double it. 10,000. Cash. Right now. Just move." Frank tilted his head. "You really don't get it, do you?" "Get what?" Elias stepped forward. "Frank isn't just a mechanic, Silas. He's a retired officer. Houston PD, 28 years. I hired him 6 months ago to keep an eye on things while I was away." Silas's face went white. Frank reached into his pocket and pulled out a small notebook. "I've been documenting everything. Every insult. Every shady sale. Every time you treated someone like they didn't matter." One of the officers moved forward, handcuffs in hand. "Silas Hartman, you're under arrest for embezzlement, fraud, and theft." Silas backed against the wall. "You can't do this to me. I'm a director. I have rights. I have." The handcuffs clicked shut around his wrists. "You have the right to remain silent," the officer said. Silas struggled, twisting, trying to pull away. "This is insane. I made this place profitable. I brought in millions. You can't arrest me for doing my job." Elias stepped closer. His voice was quiet, but it cut through Silas's panic like a blade. "You didn't do your job, Silas. You built a kingdom on the backs of people you thought were beneath you. And now that kingdom is gone." Silas's face twisted. "This is because of a jacket? You're destroying my life over a stupid jacket." "No," Elias said. "I'm holding you accountable for who you chose to be." The officers led Silas toward the exit. As they passed Frank, Silas looked at him one last time. "You'll regret this, old man." Frank smiled. "Not in this life." 3 days later, the dealership reopened, but it looked different. The velvet ropes that used to separate the premium section from the rest of the floor were gone. The intimidating security desk at the entrance had been replaced with a simple welcome station. And the staff, what was left of them, stood in a line, nervous, unsure of what was coming next. Elias stood in the center of the showroom, sleeves rolled up, no tie. He looked at the faces in front of him. 12 people. Some had been there for years. Others were new hires who'd started just weeks before everything fell apart. "I'm not here to punish you," Elias said. "If you're standing here right now, it's because your record is clean. You didn't participate in what Silas was doing. You didn't laugh when someone was being humiliated. You showed up, did your work, and treated people with dignity." A young woman in the back, an intern named Rachel, raised her hand slowly. Are we going to lose our jobs?" Elias looked at her. She couldn't have been more than 23, fresh out of college, probably scared out of her mind. "No," Elias said, "but things are going to change." He gestured to Marcus, who pulled up a new document on the monitor. It was a company-wide policy. The title read, Sterling Motors, Service First Initiative. "Starting today," Elias said, "this dealership will offer free vehicle maintenance to all active-duty military and veterans. Oil changes, tire rotations, basic repairs. No questions asked." The room was silent. "We're also implementing a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination of any kind. If a customer walks through that door, they get the same respect whether they're wearing a suit or a work jacket. If you can't do that, you don't belong here." He looked at Rachel again. "You've been here for 3 months. You work the front desk on weekends. Silas barely spoke to you, but I've been watching the security footage. You treated every customer the same. Smiled, listened, helped." Rachel nodded, confused. "How would you like to be our new junior sales lead?" Her eyes went wide. I'm just an intern." "Not anymore," Elias said. He extended his hand. She shook it, still stunned. Then Elias turned to the rest of the group. "I'm stepping down as chairman. Not because I'm giving up, but because I need to go back to the field. I need to see what's happening in our other locations. Make sure this rot hasn't spread." He gestured to the board members standing along the wall. "These 5 people will form a council of respect. They'll run the daily operations. But they answer to you, the staff, and to the customers. If you see something wrong, you report it, and it will be handled." The employees looked at each other, uncertain but hopeful. Then the front doors opened. A man walked in, expensive suit, confident stride. The same man who'd been sitting in the lounge 2 days ago, laughing while Elias was thrown out. The room tensed. The man walked straight to Elias and smiled. "You put on quite a show, little brother." Elias smiled back. "Took you long enough to blow your cover, Marcus." "Wait, Marcus?" The staff looked confused. The man from the lounge wasn't a regular customer. He was Elias's brother, Marcus Sterling, the one who'd sent the whistleblower tip, the one who'd been watching Silas for months. "I had to see it for myself," Marcus said. "And you were right. The rot was deep." Elias nodded. "But it's gone now." I'm pinning the most controversial take. Should Elias have given Silas a second chance, or was jail the only answer? Comment justice if you agree with Elias. The sun was setting over Houston, casting long shadows across the parking lot of a small car wash on the edge of town. The sign above the entrance flickered, "Quick Shine Auto Wash, $15. Inside, a man in a stained blue uniform sprayed down the side of a silver sedan. His hands were rough. His back ached. His pride was long gone. Silas Hartman had lost everything. The house, the car, the reputation. The trial had been fast. The evidence overwhelming. He'd served 8 months in county jail for embezzlement and fraud. When he got out, no dealership would touch him. No company would hire him. The only place that gave him a chance was this car wash, 3 blocks from the dealership he used to run. Every day, he watched expensive cars pull in, cars he used to sell. And every day, he scrubbed them clean, invisible to the people inside. Today was no different. He was halfway through wiping down the windows when a black SUV pulled into the bay. Sleek, polished, Familiar. The window rolled down. Silas froze. Elias Sterling looked at him, not with anger, not with satisfaction, just with calm, steady recognition. "Afternoon," Elias said. Silas didn't know what to say. He just nodded and kept wiping. When he finished, Elias handed him a $50 bill. "For a $15 wash." "Keep the change," Elias said. Silas took the money. His hand shook. "Why are you here?" Elias didn't answer right away. He looked at the car wash, then back at Silas. "Do you remember what you said to me that day? You told me to go back to the dumpster I came from." Silas looked at the ground. "I remember. Do you know why I'm giving you this 50? Silas shook his head. "It's the exact amount you stole from the first veteran you cheated. A man named Carl Hopkins, 74 years old, bought a used pickup. You charged him $50 for a documentation fee that didn't exist." Silas's throat tightened. "I tracked him down," Elias continued. "Gave him a full refund. Apologized on behalf of the company. He didn't want the money back. He just wanted someone to acknowledge what happened." Silas didn't move. "Character," Elias said, "is what you do when you think no one is watching. I hope you're watching now." He rolled up the window and drove away. Silas stood there, holding the $50 bill, watching the SUV disappear into traffic. For the first time in a year, he felt something other than anger or shame. He felt clarity. He looked down at the bill, then at the car wash, then at his reflection in the window of the next car in line. The suit never made the man. The man made the suit. Silas thought he was untouchable because of a title. He forgot that in America, we respect the man, not the fabric. If this story reminded you that true power lies in how you treat the nobodies, then you belong in our community. Subscribe before the next twist catches you off guard. If you're still not subscribing, drop a comment. What's holding you back? Only subscribers get the full story behind the scenes. Don't be left behind in the mud.
Hey there. Thank you so much for watching till the very end. We really appreciate your support. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And guess what? The story doesn't end here. Click on the video right here on your screen to dive into another fascinating story. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Once again, thanks for being a part of this amazing community. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring stories that move you.